Hey guys, I'm happy to have you once again for another installment of Q the A podcast. It is a podcast where we question the answers and answer the questions of things that we may or may not have once thought about questioning or answering. However, this week we're having a discussion about the sphere Earth theory as opposed to the flat Earth theory, as opposed to the rhombus Earth theory.
We're in a dome.
Or possibly in a dome. I am Eon K. Grissom, as always, here with Dookie Royale.
I am here. Dookie Royale's in the
He
house.
is here in his physical mammalian body, as always, and I myself, as well, although I escaped it an hour ago, but I came back. And then this week we've got a special guest. We've been trying to get him on for a long time.
I'm a fan.
He's a fan as well as one of my good friends. His name is Hash Brown.
That's right. Like the food.
Like the food. I think I just heard some crickets after I said that. Hash brown. I was
Do
like,
you
cricket,
eat
cricket,
hash
cricket.
brown soup?
Yes, Dookie Royale. Do you eat hash browns?
I do. I like Waffle House hash browns. Triple.
Oh yeah. That's not raw though.
No. I like triple
That's
hash
not good
browns.
for you at all.
Hell no, it's not. When people ask me where, if I have like a company, or somebody from my work that wants to go out to lunch, I'll usually say Waffle House or Sweet Tomatoes or something like that, because I can have options there. And actually Waffle House has a number of like grits. They have
Yeah.
a nice bowl of grits.
Ooh, I like a good grit
I
from
love
time to
grits.
time.
Hash browns, of
But I
course.
only like grits with a shit ton of butter.
Yeah, it's true. But
Mm.
they have actually, surprisingly, Waffle House has vegan butter.
Really?
Yes.
I
Very
bet
nice.
It's cheaper then, because
Yeah.
it's no way in hell that they're like trying to cater to the vegan.
Yeah, it's definitely cheaper. It's just a vegetable oil, concentrated vegetable oil, basically.
Oh yeah.
It probably has better shelf life too, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's the stuff that's clogging our arteries, right?
Among other things.
Among other things. Now, this week, gentlemen, I'm not sure how we're going to edit this, but we've already interviewed a member of the Flat Earth Society.
John Davis.
Mr. John Davis. Yes, thank you, John. I'm assuming you're going to hear that after this section. But Hash Brown here. Hash Brown is he's not a believer of the flat Earth. He's a flat Earth denier.
I hold the round
Skeptic.
Earth, or the sphere Earth, very close to my heart.
Ball
Means a
Earth.
lot. I
I
would probably fight and kill for it.
wow.
Yes.
He is a believer. This is a man of faith here, people. This man has faith that the Earth is shaped like a ball. And do you believe? I assume you believe. Now I'm going to make some assumptions here, Hash Brown.
Okay.
I'm going to assume that you believe the teachings of Newton,
I love Isaac Newton. If he's not a figment
Carl.
of imagination, yeah.
Carl Sagan,
Carl Sagan.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah. I like Neil deGrasse. I'll come around. I actually paid the.
Yeah, is it Neil deGrasse or is it Neil deGrasse? I've heard it said both ways.
Yeah, I have too. I don't know.
I don't know.
The science
But
guy.
either way, these men, as well as Hash Brown, believe, and they don't even think it's faith. They think they know this is true. They think that they know that the world that we live on is not a flat plane, but actually a huge ball-shaped sphere.
That's right.
But it's also spinning,
It is in motion.
and it got a wobble to it, and it's
Well,
actually.
it wobbles. The wobble is it comes around. Right now, our axis is pointing at the North Star, and it will continue to point pretty much directly at Polaris. And it's the only star in the sky that just sits there, and it is, the degrees off the horizon is what latitude you are on that star. But over 1,000 years, the Earth will wobble, and it'll be pointing towards nothing. It'll just be a dark spot. Polaris will have a very slight orbit around it. In fact, the Egyptians, back then, when they were building the pyramids, Polaris was not directly above the axis of Earth. So
Now,
the
is
wobble
this, is
is
this
very slight.
and this is before Ben Carson theorized that Joseph was storing his grain in the Great Pyramid, I believe.
I don't even know about that.
Oh, you didn't? They were. Ben Carson theorized possibly that the Great
I'm pretty
Pyramids were actually
sure that
used to store
they're
grain.
older than the Bible actually says, but I wouldn't know that for a fact. But I would like to say there's no way of knowing anything. I could never prove to you that I am just a figment of your imagination. So
Well, I don't know about that, but yeah, no, you're right.
yeah,
You
you
probably
can't.
can't prove anything to me.
Yeah.
The
Although,
probability of there being a flat Earth is pretty far out there, though, in my estimation,
Oh,
because
it has to be. It defies everything that we
you know,
know. I mean,
every planet that we
now
see, the moon, it's all a disk as
it
far as
no,
I see.
yeah.
it doesn't defy everything we know. It defies everything we've been taught.
Yes.
Okay, that
So,
exactly. It defies Newton's laws of gravity. It
so who is
defies.
this Newton guy,
Uh, you should
and
look
who
him
does he
up.
think he is?
Well, well, there would be no Newton if there wasn't a Galileo or a Kepler. He followed Kepler's work. He built upon Kepler's work. Kepler is a very dear hero of mine, and Newton is too. He was a genius. But he just took what you know intuitively, like why does an apple fall? And he extended that force up to the moon and said that force continues forever. It just gets weaker. It never goes away completely. And everything that has mass, matter has mass. Therefore, anything that has mass also has gravity. And he just said that is the nature of matter. It's to have mass, and the nature of mass is to have gravity. He stopped at that and basically said, you know, what is this invisible force? He said, I don't know, it's just inherent in the universe. But other people were like, well, what is this mysterious force? Einstein later explained it. But according to Newton, there's a flat disk as massive as the Earth would have to be built out of something that we've never heard of, because gravity being a central force, it will collapse mountains and turn rock into molten and form a ball. That's why any planetary object that has a lot of mass is always spherical.
So, would you almost say that like a bubble is an example
Well,
of this?
that's a good example. That has more to do with surface tension, which Newton touched on. He touched on everything. He touched on that surface tension, like water is a good example. It wants
But
to hold together.
now,
It's
interestingly, you say that though, because have you ever looked at a rain puddle?
Raindrop.
Well, no, like a puddle of water.
Yeah, there's a good
Um,
test. You can take a penny and drop little droplets of water and see how high you can get it. That is surface tension overcoming gravity.
now,
If you were to go to a place with less gravity, you could make it bubble up and dome even higher. But as soon
so
as you add gravity to the mix, it flattens out and becomes like what we know liquids do.
so that's one of the arguments I hear from flat Earth believers is that if you look at a puddle, you look at a
Mm-hmm.
lake, like a pond,
Mm-hmm.
they say water rests flat. That when you look at a globe and it's a ball shape, and you got the Pacific Ocean
Okay.
is clearly curved on that globe. Now, can you explain that? How water, like when it sits in my glass, it wants to sit flat and it wants to spread out, and it spreads out until it hits its boundaries,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I can
But
explain it.
then they show us a picture of a globe, and the water is just clinging to the side in a curved fashion. How come it doesn't do
Okay.
that on the outside of my
The
glass? How
short
come it doesn't
answer.
curve around the outside of my glass?
Okay, the short answer is because gravity is a central force, meaning it pulls from the center mass. So if you take a plumb bob, oh, this is good. This is something that we actually have to use when we're engineering suspension bridges, because we're covering such a wide area. When we are plumbing the pillars or the columns for the suspension bridge. We do it with GPS and also very sensitive lasers that are perfectly plumb. Now, what plumb means is straight with gravity, level. It's pointing directly to the center of the Earth. It's not tilted. And some of these suspension bridges are so big that plumb over here will be slightly tilted to plumb over here. So the bottoms of the pillars will be closer than the tops of the pillars. And I'm talking by like as much as 5 centimeters over a few thousand feet. And these suspension bridges are engineered with the curve of the Earth in mind.
Now, couldn't you just say that no, it totally makes sense that it's all pulling from the center. Now, what if the flat Earth is like a cone, like a ice cream cone shape, where it's pointed at the bottom and the top is not necessarily 100% flat, but it's just kind of convex.
Well, I would assume it'd have to be, otherwise I could climb to, a very tall place and see Mount Everest from here, or I could see the wall of Antarctica from not only South America but also California. But that's not the case. We never observe anything like that.
Right, so there must be a curve.
Yeah.
Um,
they don't say that.
Well, some people do theorize there's a curve.
Yeah,
I mean, some people believe there's a dome over the flat Earth. Others don't believe there's a dome. Some people think it's a dome, and we're seeing the inside of like a projection screen. No, they're not very well. I mean, they all, are all theorizing things based in their.
They got ideas, and those ideas are horrible at bearing any fruit. If you look at, that's the basic thing. That's what I love, is like ideas that bear serious fruit. That's why Newtonian physics gave rise to very practical applications. The combustible engine owes itself essentially to Newton. And then the GPS that we use today to not only navigate but to construct very large, things, owes itself to Einstein and Niels Bohr's and Richard Feynman's. All these little gadgets we use, like what we're doing right now, we owe all that to their research in quantum mechanics. Those ideas bared some serious fruit.
Those ideas did bear, yep. They have generated some. Unless those were ideas that were. Now let's get into this discussion. Because there's a theory out there that, some get into this idea of an Illuminati, of a probably small group of people that secretly rule the world. Other people theorize that they're not even human, that they're some kind of extraterrestrial race, possibly reptilian.
Mm-hmm.
But they basically want to keep us enslaved. They don't want us to know that we're in this terrarium, that we're in this enclosed dome, flat, or convex. And they want us to believe we're on a sphere floating out in the middle. They want us to think that, that it's all mysterious and we're just spinning on this sphere, so that we try to have hope for escaping or something like that. And then, of course, through this process, they've also generated a false science that lies basically parallel to correct science, which is hidden from us. Some would call it even like, I don't know, sacred knowledge or something. Knowledge of the actual truth. And that parallel science, if you understood that parallel science, would actually explain all of these fruits that you're discussing, all these scientific achievements that happen based upon these men and their findings. I don't know why there are a few women, but they're generally men in history.
Yeah.
Assuming history, as we've been told, is correct now.
Well, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But some people theorize that. Sir Isaac Newton. We've heard of him 1,000 times, and we've been told these things about the apple falling. But it's almost as provable as a story in the Bible, or any religious
I could
story.
relate to that. Yeah. Like
King and it has a moral to the story. You know what I mean? It's like it's part of the mythology of a belief system, if you will, a worldview. So, is it not possible that all of these things line up in parallel with actual truth, and these things have maybe partial truth, but they're all just spun along to keep us?
Well, for sure, they're partial truths if you're talking about theories. I mean, Newtonian physics breaks down when we observe, even the orbit of Mercury it did not predict very accurately. So Newtonian physics breaks down. Einstein's physics explains the orbits of Mercury way better than Newtonian, and any object traveling near the speed of light. But it also breaks down, so it is not the whole picture. But that's the best we got, and that's what science is. We can never know anything. We can only test our ideas to see if, interrogate nature is what I like to say. And just you can only assume that nature is not programmed to deceive us, but you can't prove that it's not.
So you can only assume that nature is not programmed to deceive us. You can't prove it. That's tricky.
Prove it. You can't prove it. No. If that's what you want to believe,
right,
then there is no way to convince you otherwise.
Yeah, now that's tricky then, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's like the same, is my red the same as your red?
I know, that one's just mess with your mind.
Yeah, you can't say it isn't. Well, we could say, okay, red is just a frequency of visible light, and we can test that we're looking at the same frequencies, and our instruments would agree that yes, we are. But I could never step inside your experience of red and say, yes, this is definitely red. I mean, for that matter, dolphins may see red with echolocation.
So maybe that's closer to the truth of the flat Earth theory. People that theorize or that say that they know it's true. Maybe they're perceiving things differently.
I think it definitely has something more to do with what the heart wants, whatever that means. They want to reject that there is so much figured out before them, so they investigate it. They ignore. Maybe they're subconsciously jealous of somebody like Newton or Einstein, and they wish they would have been the one to figure it out. So they tried to, cast them aside, or make them, a reptilian or whatever, or at best possessed by Satan.
Sure.
Well, yeah, like Ian said earlier. I mean, you're not unless you're out there in space looking back on Earth, you're not going to really ever know.
Well, you can look at with a telescope. I encourage everybody to do this. I love getting my telescope out and looking at the moon, even though I've seen it 100 times. But you're looking at it, and you can see there's a ground. It's a world with real events. Why would the Earth be something special if the moon looks like a real world? And the same thing is true with Jupiter. You don't even see the moons of Jupiter until you get a telescope out. And then you see these little 4 satellites, and you watch Jupiter over the course of the month that it's in the sky, and you see these satellites getting closer to Jupiter and some getting further away. You see the rings, and it's the most spiritual thing you can do that's not, spiritual to me.
Some would say that the moon, is flat as well because it never rotates. It just sits there.
Yeah.
And you can only see one side.
Well, we do have a map at the backside, unless they pulled that out of their ass. But there is a good reason why we only see the moon one side of it. And the best theory I've heard is that it's better to consider the Earth and the moon as a binary planetary system, because the moon is so much bigger than other moons we see around other planets. So, I mean, the moon is like a quarter of the size of Earth, I believe. And that's a massive binary. I mean, it pulls on our oceans. It actually causes earthquakes sometimes. And we are too pulling on it. And because they formed pretty much at the same time, when the moon cooled to a state that was finally able to become solid, it was frozen to us. So it makes one turn every revolution around us. Make sense?
Yeah.
That seems a little too coincidental.
I don't know. I mean, what do you define coincidence? I mean, everything that happens is insane, dude.
I mean, when it just looks static. It just looks static all the time. And if it's the spinning sphere, I don't know.
They call it the dark side of a moon for a reason.
Okay, so the fact that we have this set of physics that we can determine, what kind of torque will be applied on a transmission and all the way back to the wheel, and then we could determine how fast or how much a vehicle could pull. Those same equations in physics can also be used to explain something as crazy as the moon.
So
do you think that's...
No, I mean it would of course apply. I mean I would assume that the physics in the observable universe would be consistent. But that's an assumption, of course.
Well,
everything within the atmosphere or the firmament or whatever we're talking about within the enclosure.
Let's talk about what they actually...
That's all I can really observe. I mean, you can look up through a telescope and see stuff, but you don't see a lot of action. Things kind of happen in slow motion from that view. I mean, you can zoom in and see it, but yeah, it's not like you're seeing it in motion like you do here on the ground, on the actual playing field that we perceive on a daily basis.
Everything is very
where things
slow.
appear very flat.
They would have a hard time, in my view, explaining when Venus passes, or Venus and Mercury, when they pass in front of the sun, in between us and the sun, you'll see Mercury and Venus, and they, if you get a telescope out and get your filters and all that stuff, you'll know where Venus is because of Newton's laws, and you will predict precisely when it'll start to block out just a tiny bit of light of the sun. And if you look at it, you'll see the shadow. I think it's called the transient of Venus.
Mm-hmm.
If the sun is so close to the Earth, then Venus has to be closer because it passes in front of the sun.
Yeah, the explanation that flat earthers have is that the sun is what, 1,000 miles away, and
something like that. It's way closer than 93,000 miles, which is what we're taught in science.
We also observe Venus speeding up and slowing down as it falls around the sun. And that's essentially what anything in orbit is doing. It's just got the velocity and the angular momentum to not fall to the ground. So go ahead.
So your explanation, your proof of this is dots moving in the sky, is what you're saying.
No. If I was to prove it, I would have to, like my own personal reasons would be to, get your telescope out and observe things for yourself and really see.
Yes.
That the moon is not some celestial object made from the fifth element like Aristotle said. And, it's a real place with real events.
Now, how do we know that the telescopes aren't being made by the conspirators?
They could be. Yeah, you just have to kind of have a vague understanding of optics.
I guess the thing is, if you're willing to...
You basically have to understand or trust your own understanding.
Oh man, that's dead. That's dangerous though.
It's sort of like carbon dating. Like a lot of people think that carbon dating is just a complete hoax. How do we measure the distance between here and the moon and here and the sun? Do you know?
Well, there's a good way in trigonometry. It only works for our planets and the sun and the moon. And the best example is if you hold your finger out and you have two eyes. If you have two eyes, you're fortunate. And you can blink, and then you blink with the other, and the objects in the background move relative to the objects in the foreground. And you can calculate, depending if the background's so far that it doesn't move, it doesn't shift, then you can calculate where the things are in the middle. And that's the way we used it up until around Edwin Hubble, which was around the same time as Einstein was coming about 1900s. And Edwin Hubble was observing what he thought were nebula. But what he was observing was actually galaxies. Now, how we know these were galaxies is because they were redshifted in light. And red shifted just means that the waves are longer. And so they were so still, so fixed, he couldn't explain how everything would move except for those. Like you look at it in winter, and you look at it in summer, and that's kind of like blinking your eye because the Earth is on the opposite side of the sun. And you So he noticed that they were redshifted, and the only viable theory that could be tested was that it's not that their stars are red, they're the same colors as ours, they're just moving away from us so fast that it's stretching the wavelengths to become what appears to be red.
Wow. That's pretty crazy.
And it is crazy, and it took him like 25 years to do his observations, and it took a team of scientists to even come up with a plausible theory that could be tested, and they weren't confirmed until like the 1930s.
Right.
And it's a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, and a lot of times they abandoned. I mean, there were teams that had other ideas that just got said, yep, wrong, and their whole life was wasted, and they went and killed themselves. That's a true story.
Wow.
So,
They took it so personally that they failed so miserably they killed themselves.
so Jacob,
Yeah.
did you know any of these people?
No.
Hmm.
But I'm pretty sure I didn't make them up. They're not just in my head.
How'd you find out about they in books?
Yeah.
Books. Maybe people did videos about things based on those books.
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love books. I like.
Okay. But not all books, right? Certain books are silly.
Books are mind control.
Yeah. I like books about that kind of ideas we were talking about.
Oh, interesting. So, what's that, Dookie Royale?
I was gonna say, do you think that it's like the math and like the how light is just now reaching the planet and from millions of years ago? Do you think this kind of things just like blow people's minds and they just can't accept it?
It blows my mind.
It does.
Yeah,
I still can't wrap my head around some of it.
Yeah, like I'm looking at you in the past, not
Sure.
the lights coming off my screen, but all these signals being sent through the internet. I will never see you in the present because you will always be some distance from me.
Hmm.
That blows my mind.
It's true.
Now, so Hash Brown, how do I know that these books that you get information from are more valid than other books that have other information that says other things?
I really think it has to do with personality. Like, if you like the Word of God,
The word of a God.
a word of a God, then you get obsessed with religious teachings, and you just like what people figure out when they sit around and starve themselves and go in the desert and have hallucinations, but you think it's a visit from God. But if you're like me, you like ideas that actually can be put to the test and can be verified and increase your understanding. And, actually you can do something with them. It's like you got the flat earth idea. I've heard them explain gravity by us constantly accelerating in space. It's like, okay, that could explain gravity, but why aren't
You there?
all the stars
Hey.
getting closer?
You just took a pause. What was that you were saying?
Who, me?
Yeah.
What was I saying?
Maybe it was me.
Where did I left off?
I don't know. It was you or me. It was just for a minute.
Did you get all that, Duke?
Yeah, I think I made it all the way through on my side.
It's probably just me. I think my wife's up there. She's binging on that 70s show, and she's probably got a nice high def picture that's just squeezing out my podcast.
Hey, Kevin, what are you drinking?
Hey, yeah, this is a good time to announce our little section of what is Eon K. Grissom drinking this week. This week I'm drinking 2 beers from a local brewery, one of my two favorite local breweries. I'm starting to like this one a little more than the other one, but I'm starting to.
All big favorites.
You're right. They're all good in their special way. Anyway, this is the Cadence Reformed Belgian Ale from Reformation Brewery here in the fabulous Woodstock, Georgia, which is being regentrified into a trendy little space right now. We're trying to de-redneck-ify the town. This one's got a cool little saying on the side. It says it's the rhythm of everyday moments. Right here in this can. Contains the rhythm of everyday moments. It is a very just drinkable, kind of a rich, not too rich, Just a perfect little balanced, almost like a Newcastle ale.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got 6.9% alcohol. And then along with that, I've got their Stark Refreshed Porter.
Oh, that is a good one.
That is also good. Yeah, this has less alcohol. It's like 5.5% from the Reformation Brewery. But on the side, it says that it is actually a contrast to the noise of life.
I like that too.
So they both go good. Double fist in here. And you, Hash Brown, are drinking something of your own there. What do you
I'm
have?
drinking some scotch.
Ooh.
Single barrel, age 15 years. Balvenie, I believe is how you pronounce it.
Balvenie.
Yeah.
How is that? Is it a tasty scotch?
Well, it is 47.8% alcohol,
Whoa, now.
and it has a very, it's very smooth, very oak. It's got like a vanilla aftertaste.
Oh, okay. I never seen that bottle. That must be a new one you got.
This is what Tim got me for my birthday.
Well, very nice. Thanks, Tim, if you're listening.
It is delicious.
No,
Probably the best one I have right
a lot of people don't know that Dookie Royale has his own favorite drink tonight.
What is that?
Yes, tell us what that is, Dookie Royale.
It is my favorite C2O pure coconut water.
Ooh.
Since I'm
How
not a
does it
drinker.
taste? How does it taste compared to actual, like, just straight coconut water out of a coconut?
It's so it has to be pasteurized to be in the United States. So it's like it's sent through a heat tube
Huh.
very quickly. It's called flash pasteurization.
Okay.
So it tastes a little bit more sweet than you would out of a straight coconut because it's been cooked a little bit.
Huh.
Interesting. Well, that sounds good. I like some coconut.
I
Bastards.
would want that. I'd want to
All
put
right.
some liquor in it, but
Make a little pina colada. Pina colada.
yeah.
Well, you know, when I'm on vacation, you know.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm always on vacation. 24/7. So, let's see. Flat Earth theory. Now, I guess it's assumed that a lot of our listeners, we're kind of jumping into this in a kind of an advanced discussion. We haven't really explained the basics of Flat Earth theory to our listeners. We haven't explained to them what the Flat Earth map is and what it implies. We've kind of discussed the dome, but we haven't really talked a lot about the dome. I want our listeners, if you're interested in it, in the Flat Earth theory, and especially if you're not interested in the Flat Earth theory, although I doubt you'd be this far into the episode if you weren't in some way interested, you know, go to YouTube and Google search Flat Earth theory, start looking it up, start looking at it. It's interesting what people have come up with. From what I can tell, there's three kinds of people. There's people who believe that the Earth is flat or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's people who are not necessarily believing that, but they're starting to question what they've been told. They haven't ever put it to the test themselves. They're starting to realize and wake up to the idea that facts may not be facts. So they're starting to, you know. So to me, that's where I'm at. I'm usually in that camp. I'm just excited about the fact that I'm allowed to question facts, quote unquote, facts and science and whatever authoritative information. And then the third group of people in the Flat Earth community seems to be people that are just complete trolls.
Yeah.
And they're
it's hard
just
to tell.
yeah. Some of them are very good and convincing.
Yeah.
You know, I may be one of them. You always be skeptical of that. Maybe I'm not. Maybe Hash Brown is actually spewing disinformation.
I might be.
There's a couple of videos that I saw on YouTube that came up on those are like the top two links whenever you search it, Flat Earth Theory. And I watched a couple of them. One was called True World. It's about 30 minutes long, and it gets right to the point, and it gives you like 30 minutes of straight facts, and that was pretty good. There was another one that was 2 hours and like 10 minutes long. It's called Under the Dome.
Yes.
And it's the most viewed for sure. But it has a specific theory that we're under a dome, and there's an ice wall that keeps us inside.
Yeah.
There's other theories like the puddle theory. The puddle theory is, says that we're in one melted little spot, and then you go beyond the ice wall, and there's other melted spots. That's maybe where aliens are coming from. and visiting us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just an infinite plane of existences and puddles.
See, a lot of these sound like they would make really great novels,
Oh yeah.
but not
It might be where they
scientific
came from.
theories.
Yeah, it might be where
Yeah,
they
they
came from.
probably are.
You never know. But
Yeah,
yeah,
some of it gets a little biblical, Old Testament.
Yeah, from what I could tell, most of them were religious.
sure.
But I didn't really do the near
Yeah, no,
research
some of them
into
are,
it.
but no, there's definitely some people that aren't at all interested in anything religious, and they would think that's ludicrous to even
To even say that.
even begin to look at verses in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Why would you look at that as any point of truth verification? Yeah, they're looking at the world around them. They're doing their own, scientific testing, whatever you may call it.
So why is it that we can't, climb to the top of the mountain or somewhere and then see another peak if the Earth is flat? Why
Well,
does that
there's a lot of
inflict a
different
fear of
theories on
mountains?
that. Some say that the light is, we misperceive the light, that it bends or it curves. Our interview with our flat Earth expert, he was discussing his ideas about Einstein's relativity, about curved space,
General relativity? Yeah,
and
general
and he
theory of
started getting
relativity.
pretty scientific there. He kind of lost me actually, so he kind of went over my head.
Hmm.
And I was like, cool, man, That's why, of course, he wants to have a debate with you, and that would be a good episode, I think, is to
He
have
seems
you.
like a nice guy, yeah.
Oh, he seems like a great guy. He's up for a debate. I say that's interesting. Let's have a huge. I mean, that's
I
what's.
usually find when things get over people's heads, they're usually pulling it out their ass or they're misinterpreting it themselves.
Okay.
Because the general theory of relativity is actually fairly simple. And when they talk about curved space and stuff like this was Einstein's way of explaining gravity. And that basically any particle that does not have mass must be traveling the speed of light. As soon as energy takes on the form of matter and mass, then it has the energy to curve space and time in such a way that it causes gravity. And this answered the question that Newton didn't even think about. Why does matter attract matter, or mass have this gravity? And the reason Einstein said was because space and time are interactive roles in this game called life, and they warp and curve in such a way that gravity is that. It pulls. Is that over your head?
No, I'm following you there. And of course, we
Yeah.
found out a couple weeks ago that it's releasing like gravity waves are
Yeah,
being
so
released.
gravity waves is just ripples in this fabric of space-time, like a trampoline.
Now they say that they found gravity through the waves, but they're measuring through like human devices, right? These.
What they have done, they have taken two photons and they have split them at right angles,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And those are perfectly, I think they're like 2 miles long. And they hit mirrors and they come back and then they meet up precisely. And they do this over and over again.
Huh.
But in the general theory of relativity, as a gravity wave comes around, it stretches and distort distances. So the one going at right angle to the gravity wave will get shorter, and that photon gets back a little bit sooner than it should have. And the only explanation they have for that is that in general theory of relativity, it did get shorter through the ripple of space and time. It's better to show this like in a graphic. But
Now, that's why what you're saying is cool. It reminds me of we did a Scientology episode a long time ago, and one of the cool facets of Scientology is the discussion of the MEST reality that we live in, the matter, energy, space, and time. So it sounds like that's touching on the same discussion there.
Yeah. Yeah, Scientology being a religion born closer to the age of Einstein incorporated some scientific ideas, but it's
He
still
sprinkled
bonkers.
some stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, Zach Galifianakis, I loved one time. He said, "Man, I love it when they mix science with ology."
That's good.
That is a good joke. Yeah, he's a funny little Greek.
Huh.
You guys mentioned the Bible, and someone had retweeted or tweeted back to me, to us on the QA podcast about the Bible verses that say that we are on a flat Earth.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I could read a couple of those if you'd like.
Absolutely.
All right. That's Genesis 1:7. And God made the firmament. And this is where they get the firmament name from. God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. There's also the stars. So this is how some flat earthers tell what happened with the stars. And the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. That's in Revelation 6:13. Also, so the theory of the flat earth and the dome is that we're looking through a looking glass. And in Job 37:18,
Job.
Job, you are correct. I said Job. Hast thou with him spread out the sky, which is strong, and as a molten looking glass? Psalms
Sounds like Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah. So I mean that's like the fisheye lens type theory, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have like the firmament and this kind of lens over the top of it, like an eyeball.
Yeah. That
So where is the
curved
sun?
light.
Is the sun in the firmament or above the waters?
They're saying that the sun and the moon would be 1,000 miles away, and the sun would be 1,300 miles away. But they're all within this firmament.
Yeah, they're under the firmament because there's water up above them.
So
Right.
Venus and Mercury are above or below the moon?
Possibly, probably past the moon. I'm thinking.
Past
I mean,
the
the
moon?
firmament's pretty high up there, man. You know.
So Venus and Mercury have to be between the moon and the sun because they do cast shadows on the sun, but never the moon. And then beyond that, you have the other planets, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, which the Bible didn't even know about the other two, but because you can't see them with the naked eye.
Sure.
So, I mean, isn't this a complicated, clumsy idea? Let's go build an engine based on this idea. You can't.
The final Bible verse is Psalms 104, and this is about how the plane was set. He has set earth on its foundations, so that it should never be moved. That's again Psalms 104:5.
So what are earthquakes?
Those are just little tremors within the.
Is it not the turtle moving?
That's
Could
when
be
you
the,
get into
could be the turtle. Yep.
hollow Earth theory on that one.
Yeah.
Hollow Earth. Yeah, that's another good wormhole that we probably shouldn't go into too much.
I don't know anything about it.
Oh, the hollow Earth. You'd probably be more accepting of the hollow Earth theory. There's really less science to disprove anything about that.
Mm-hmm.
Just because inside the Earth is actually pretty mysterious from what we know.
Yeah, there's 0 pictures. Nobody's ever been in there.
But it's weird.
You can say whatever you want, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all open for debate. I mean, some people even theorize there's an entire planet within there, and I've even thought, well, maybe that's actually we are inside the hollow Earth.
Well, with our supercomputer processing powers we have these days, we can link up seismograph detectors to form a 3D image of the inner Earth. When an earthquake does happen, it sends ripples through the molten lava, whatever, and with incredible computer processing power, we can actually put all that information together and get an image and have an idea of what kind of consistency it is, what kind of voids are there, and stuff like that.
So when I was a kid, I remember being in class, maybe geography class or science class, wherever they teach it to you, that the crust is 20 miles thick, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
Like 20 miles. And I remember like, how long would it take me to dig 20 miles? And I went home and I started digging. I only made it like 3 feet. And I stopped digging.
It wore out and had blisters.
Yeah, I tried that.
Yeah, I think we all did. I was like, man, if I just dedicate. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I thought I could make it to China.
Yeah. Or yeah, I started wondering, when am I going to start digging up?
But yeah, you don't know that there's water a little ways down. It'll flood your idea.
Yeah. Yeah,
You'll never make it.
I was doing it in my backyard, and my dad put a stop to that real quick. He was like, "What the hell are you doing?"
My parents didn't care. They're like, get dirty, I don't care, boy.
Yeah.
Hey, Darren here on the chat says that we have only dug 8 miles down.
It's
Huh.
true.
So,
I did hear that, actually, in the last few days.
which that's actually kind of impressive. I mean,
Yeah.
Was that hole dug intently for going deep, or
Mhm.
is it a mine?
I'm gonna guess there was money involved.
Or taxpayer money? Then you
Yeah,
get useless missions.
yeah. There you go. Now they're the government, so if the world is flat and it's not a sphere, as we've been told by the government school systems and the government scientists and the government, PBS news information sources, then of course the government has us in control. They're lying. Some theorize that they're high level Freemasons. We're part of some other secret society that's so secret we don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
They have the men in black working for them. They're probably listening to us right now.
Yeah.
And they're trying to. They're actually working for the devil, who does not want us to know about the creation that we currently live in. And I find it interesting. You were saying earlier how, how do you make a device? We were talking about the flat Earth science, and you were like,
Yeah.
make an engine off that.
Off that idea.
And
yeah.
I guess that the flat Earth people would argue and say, well, there's the engine right there. The same engine you're talking about is that
Yeah,
engine,
but the
because we are
principles
on the
of
flat Earth, and there's the engine right there. So that would be the argument. There it is. It's already
clearly,
done.
engineering feats that took place to create the engine was not only waiting for, the materials, but also the concept had to be derived out of some kind of understanding that could be testable and engineered from Newtonian physics.
So, what do you think about the Truman Show, Hash Brown?
It was Jim Carrey's worst movie.
Oh,
No, I liked it. I liked it. It's got some good parts in it. It
yeah.
was good.
So,
I bet, was he paranoid? And right?
well, yeah. So that's the thing. He was paranoid
Maybe he was
for a
right.
good. Yeah, he was insane, and they made him. They wanted him to feel that way.
Mhm.
But yeah, in the end, like you said, he was right.
Mhm.
He was actually correct in his paranoia that everything was a hoax, and he was in a. Oh, I'm sorry though. I don't want to spoil this for our listeners who have not watched the Truman
Whatever.
Show.
Yeah,
We may have some
It's a
younger
good
listeners
movie,
who
man.
haven't watched that.
it is not too soon, Eon.
Not too soon, so we're allowed to spoil. All right, to our listeners, if you've never seen the Truman Show, please turn this episode off, go watch it, and then come back.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie basically depicts the modern internet version of the Hollow Earth theory. The more I've looked at the Hollow Earth theory, this dome idea isn't this kind of this very specific explanation of the flat Earth theory I've seen lately is kind of a cool new weird spin on it. Older theories weren't exactly as Truman Show-esque, if you will. But people theorize that the Truman Show is one of those forms of them basically presenting the truth to us and as a form of fiction and laughing all the way to the bank.
Sort of humor. They say that they learn from their mistakes, and back when they created the flat Earth, it was smaller like that, but people discovered the edge, and so now they had to create it so big and so wide that we might not ever discover the edge or the top of the firmament.
Man, that is crazy.
It's crazy, but it's exciting.
It's fun. It is exciting.
It's very fun.
Had I had not been exposed to science, I probably would have went that way. Possibly.
So, if you hadn't been brainwashed by these science books,
Yeah, if it just
the
didn't make
science
so much
cult.
sense.
So, is it possible that Carl Sagan is just an actor?
Yeah,
Neil deGrasse Tyson, actor.
yeah, yeah, sure.
Einstein, uh,
Einstein's made up.
actor.
Yeah, he's just made up. He didn't
Is it
even.
possible that
Einstein was an alien.
Keanu Reeves is a bad actor?
Does he
Yes.
even exist? I think he's in the Matrix.
Is it possible that Nicolas Cage is the most amazing actor in the planet?
That is true. He should play Carl Sagan in a
Oh
movie.
man, that would be amazing. You heard it right here. QDA podcast. Hash Brown called it. Nicolas Cage needs to play Carl Sagan in a Hollywood production.
All right, Mr. Hash Brown, Mr. Hashtag Hash Brown.
Hashtag Hash Brown.
Have you heard of the Bedford level experiment?
I have not.
Bedford level experiment happened in the, let's see if I have a year here that I can find specifically. Late 1800s, early 1900s, by a guy named Samuel Burley Robotham. I'm going to see if maybe you can explain what the flaws in his measurements were. Basically, they had a riverbed in a town in the UK or England, and they were stretching a piece of. They had 3 poles on 2 ends
Yeah.
of this riverbed, so they could it was like a flat surface, I guess. And they were trying to measure the curvature of the Earth using this riverbed and these 3 poles. So let's see. Their measurement was at the point chosen for all experiments, the river is a slow-flowing drainage canal running in an uninterrupted straight line for 6 miles. The most famous of the observations, and the one that was taught in schools until photographs of the Earth from space became available, involved a set of 3 poles fixed at equal height above the water along its length. As the surface of the water was assumed to be level, the discovery that the middle pole, when viewed carefully through the theodolite, was almost 3 feet higher than the poles at each end, and was finally accepted to be proof that the surface of the Earth was indeed curved. But Samuel Burley Robotham, his experiment showed that the opposite, that the Earth was flat. So he says his explanation is if the Earth is a globe and is 25,000 English statute miles in circumference, which is all the way around the Earth, the surface of all standing water must have a certain degree of convexity.
So,
Every part should be an arc of a circle, right?
okay.
From the summit of any such arc, there will exist a curvature or declination of 8 inches in the first statute mile. So he's saying as you look, you should lose 8 inches for every mile that you're looking across the horizon. In the second mile, the fall will be 32 inches. Oh, I see. So it's like and the third mile, 72, 6 feet is shown.
Yeah, so it's like the convex, contact lens type curve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't have the numbers, but you can test that if the Earth is curved. Like the best way is to get pillars that are really tall, stand them perfectly plumb, and then walk far away and stand the other one perfectly plumb, and see how much closer the bottom is to the top. But you got to use GPS to do that, as far as I know.
That is a little bit of a flaw, though, is like visually seeing things, because it really kind of depends on your height or where you're standing. And
yeah, it was hard for me to follow what he was doing, but I don't know.
He was basically using survey equipment, I think, to look through a pinhole and in the equipment to see poles 6 miles away on the other end. And it was basically a flat, level valley where the river was running, which I think is another flaw in itself. But
was he in Kansas? Because I've heard it is literally the flattest place on Earth.
Isn't saying flat Earth kind of backwards anyway?
Yeah.
Because it's not really the Earth. You would think is round, right? Earth is a
Yeah.
planet.
Yeah.
Well, no, Earth. So that I've thought about that a bit. So world and Earth don't imply a shape. They're just what we call our home.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, planet, of course, implies a sphere shape. Ironically, if you take the T off the end of that, you have the word plane, which is a point they make in one of those flat Earth videos. But yeah, if you say like our planet, then yeah, you're talking about a sphere. But if you say yeah, Earth or world, in a world. So I got this interesting video I found here. I posted on our QVA or Facebook.com/QVA podcast page. NASA video. It's live footage from the space station ISS.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Now,
again, they'll say that that's a fisheye lens that's showing that. What do you think?
right, so they'll say it's fisheye, and of course it does not show the entire sphere. It's just a curve. The curve does appear to be rotating under the space station, like consistently. It goes on for 7 hours, I think.
Well, the space station goes really fast. It orbits the Earth faster than the Earth spins.
Oh, they've got it sped up, huh?
Well,
Or
I'm just
something?
saying the ISS is going in the same direction as the Earth is spinning, but it's going a lot faster than the Earth is spinning.
ISS, which ironically has the same name as in-school suspension that I spent a good bit of time in.
That's right.
But yeah, because I'm watching it and you can see the sun kind of come around and set and then go around.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking like, well, if this was flat, would it look that way? And I think it
No.
might. I think it might.
No. How?
I think it might. I mean,
You have to believe they're lying.
it could. It could go in a. It could have just gone and it's going to go around and come back around.
Okay, this is a good point. Like, Aristotle, he believed in that there was the 5 elements, but he only made public like the 4 elements: earth, wind, and fire, and water. And then the 5th element was the heavenly body element. And it was special. It never decayed or changed. And instead of traveling in straight lines, they traveled in circular lines. And that's what the sun was made of. That's what the moon was made of. That's what all the planets were made of, which actually means wandering stars. And he did this in an attempt to explain. He believed the earth was round, but he believed it was at rest. And his physics were way off. Everything, the 4 elements that were here on Earth wanted to be at rest with the Earth. So if you threw something, it came to a stop because it wants to be at rest. This, of course, is totally backwards and wrong. Newton proved him wrong, which is why the Greeks didn't have the combustible engine or even a concept for it, because they had their physics all wrong. But it's the
Isn't also not because they hadn't discovered petroleum.
well, the diesel engine ran off of vegetable oil, and the steam engine ran off of coal, which they certainly had coal, which is a type of combustion engine.
The Greeks.
Yep.
Yes.
And anyways, so yeah, the sun traveling in a circle, that was because it was made from a 5th element. Very mystical way of thinking. And totally wrong. I just like to say intellectual brilliance is no guarantee against being dead wrong. Because he was very smart, but he was fucking dead wrong.
Sure.
That reminds me of I think it was Two Stupid Dogs. It was like an animated show back in I think the 90s
Yeah.
on Cartoon Network. And this guy, he would always say, kind of this old grumpy guy. He'd say, well, that's cute, but it's wrong.
Yeah, well, ain't that cute? But it's wrong.
Ain't that cute? But it's wrong. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of what you're saying, right? It's
Yeah.
cute. It's
Yeah.
cute.
It's a good idea that you can't build on. You can sit there and worship and serve tyrants and justify slavery with, but you can't take that, put it to the test, and build, or not even build, but do something with it. You can't do anything with it. You can't make predictions.
Hey, so what tests can we do to prove the shape of the Earth? Now, we don't want to go in assuming, we want to apply the scientific method properly. We don't want to go in assuming that it's a ball, try to
Yeah.
prove that it's a ball. We don't want to go in assuming that it's flat and try to prove that it's flat. We just want to do a test that shows us what the heck's going on. What is this thing we're standing on?
He tried to do that. Um, he tried to prove that the Earth was in motion. I
So he
don't know
jumped up in the air, right? And he landed in the same spot, and he proved that it was not in motion.
Well, he did a couple of thought experiments that were brilliant because he assumed if it was a ball, which he believed it was, mainly because the shadow it cast on the moon when the Earth's shadow is on the moon because it's between the sun and the moon, it's always curved. If it was a disk, it would look like an ellipse sometimes, or flat, like the side of a penny. But it's always round. And then also, when you're looking at boats sail away from the shore, the bottoms always disappear first, unless there's a crazy mirage effect, which can be explained with our understanding of optics and how illusions can be made. But then he started to think about, well, if it is spinning, then there must be an axis, right? Because the path of the sun and the stars are just too smooth. It's got to be, has an axis. So he thought about pendulums swinging, and they swing, and then he thought, well, let me put the pendulum on a ball bearing, a circle ball bearing. And as the Earth spins, it should rotate the opposite way of the Earth. And the best way to visualize this is if you're at the North Pole and you're looking, well, here's a better way. Take this at home. Pour a bowl of cereal and then take your bowl of cereal with Fruit Loops floating in it and spin around. The Fruit Loops will spin around the opposite way. Now picture you're on the top of the world and you're sitting there still, but because the Earth is spinning, your Fruit Loops will be spinning the opposite way in the bowl.
Wow. If you're right on directly on the top of the pole, right?
Yeah, and this holds true all the way until you get to the equator, and then below the equator it will go the opposite way. And it's not because the Earth is spinning opposite, it's because your perspective is opposite. So if you are on the South Pole and I am on the North Pole, and we're observing a bowl of Fruit Loops spinning, I would say they're going counterclockwise, you would say they're going clockwise.
Hmm.
And that's why storms in the northern hemisphere go counterclockwise, and then the southern hemisphere they go clockwise. And you
So
can
we
test this
were
yourself. If you get a big bowl, I recommend something really big like a pail, and put a floating apple in it.
Mhm.
Put a time-lapse camera on it. You can watch it move around the whole outer rim. It has to be perfectly round, or currents will mess it up. It can't be square. But if it's round, the floating apple will go all the way around in a 24-hour period. And I observed this on a swimming pool when I was young.
Wow. Oh, you mean like if you just lay it in the water?
Yeah, you just lay it in the water, and then you just watch it. In 24 hours, it'll go around the bowl or whatever.
So what we were explained was on the flat Earth theory, at least the person that we were talking to, John Davis, is that this is the plane. Let's see if I can do it. I'm showing on the YouTube video, and the sun kind of rotates around the flat plane like this.
Mm-hmm.
Now that there's, like I said, me and Leon have said that there's a number of different flat Earth theories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there could be no firmament. We could not be in a dome. We could have space, but we could be on a flat, infinitive white plane, right?
Yeah.
So if the Earth is spinning, if the planets are spinning around like this, and we still have like the sun going around as well, and the planets going around, but they're much closer than what we've been told. That might account for like some of the shading on the moon or eclipses or.
Well, that example you just told is why Aristotle had to invent a heavenly object made of, a fifth element, this mystical element, because that motion cannot be explained in anything we ever experienced. So he said it's made of something totally different and travels in a circular fashion. That's where Aristotle was getting at.
Yeah, where does that energy come from?
Yeah, what makes it change direction is something unknown.
Hmm.
And but go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that was it. Yeah, I was just saying
Yeah, so
that's one of our explanations.
yeah, and it provides no real understanding, especially when you look at the Newtonian physics. It makes absolutely no sense.
Huh. We should pray about this.
I
I'll
wonder what
meditate on it
God
later.
thinks.
I'm gonna
You
meditate
don't
on
have to
that.
wonder, Kevin. There's a book right here.
You got a book?
Yeah, it's called the Bible.
Oh, you got a Bible? That better be the King James version.
It is.
Excellent.
So one of the things, another thing that we were talking about with our flat earther was satellites. He was telling us that satellites are stationary, that they do not orbit, that they sit stationary. They're not accelerating.
Yeah, we call that a geocentric
They're not falling.
satellite orbit. Geocentric orbit means it goes around the Earth one time every time the Earth spins. That's what your direct TV homes in on.
Sure, it stays in the same spot.
Yeah.
But are there? So apparently, there's satellites that do go faster.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
other
so-
satellites that, you know, go from north to south pole. There's satellites that it's like a lot harder to do because when we launch things into space, we use the spin of the Earth to help us in that acceleration. So, like if the Earth is spinning and you launch off, you want to go in the same direction because it's like a kickstart. To get going the other direction takes like twice the fuel. So it better be very necessary to go that other way.
Sure.
I just found an interesting verse from the Book of Urantia, and it states that if there's an ancient sacred text that speaks of the Earth being flat, then for many generations, otherwise sane men and women will refuse to accept positive evidence that the planet is round. I guess it's stating that Book of Urantia believes it to not be flat.
Hmm.
No.
I think that sums it up, guys, right there. Book of Urantia.
It is fact. I mean, come on. Now, one of our commenters on YouTube says, "Do you think that the moon landings were real?"
I believe in them, yeah. I sure do.
So my thing about the moon landings is, let's say all this heliocentric stuff is correct, Newtonian physics is correct. Let's even say we have a rover on Mars. Does any of that prove that humans went to the moon? No.
No, not at
It
all.
doesn't. I like the idea that people have proposed that we even have been to the moon. We actually went there. But that footage is fake. They didn't show us the real footage. And to me, there's actually, and I don't want to get into it, but there's some interesting evidence to support that idea, that the footage that we were shown was fake. And I guess the question as to why would they fake it if they actually did go to the moon would be a good question. And it's, people theorize that when they went to the moon, they had every intention of videotaping it and showing us the correct footage, but there was apparently something going on there that they didn't want us to know about. And maybe that was because maybe the moon was more flat than we believed. Maybe there was some kind of extraterrestrial structures or some kind of structures there that we didn't expect to see. Maybe there was a, Costco logo. I don't know.
The biggest reason for me to not believe the moon landing was real is because we haven't gone back yet.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a lot of weird stuff with NASA like that, actually.
Well, if you want to try to go back to the moon, let's start. I'll gladly pay an extra $1 of my taxes to go to the moon again.
What's the official explanation? Is that there's just no reason to go back,
There's
right?
no reason. There's no money for it. Nobody wants to do it. That's NASA's explanation. That's your congressman. They will not fund another mission.
Sounds like they're hiding something to me.
Moon
Sounds like a
bases.
bunch of bullshit, but if you listen to some of the rhetoric in the 70s songs by a lot of artists I love, they talk about moonshots being a waste of money.
Huh.
Now there's theories that
People
you
got
wouldn't.
mad at NASA because they were spending way too much money going to the moon.
Well, they're spending way too much money on wars too, but they're not stopping that.
Yeah, well, that's
Uh,
where the safety is. Don't you want
Supposedly. Yeah. So some people are saying that the space shuttles would burn up if they got into outer space. They wouldn't make it. They never could. Metal would melt.
No.
These type of things, and also like there was a 1 in a million shot that they could even land that shuttle on the moon.
I heard it
Yep.
was 50-50, and they knew that it was going to be 50-50, and they took the risk anyways. That's why they actually
That's pretty crazy.
what's really crazy is there was two speeches after they landed.
Yeah.
One was if they died, and the other was if they made it. You should go back and read the speech that was written in case they were left and they were abandoned on the moon.
Wow.
It's really eerie. It's good then.
That's supposedly where we got our first pictures of Earth.
Yeah,
Right.
I believe in the moon landing 100%. Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong were my heroes. I would kill for them. I'm just kidding.
Somebody went up to, I think it was Buzz Aldrin, and was basically implying that they faked the moon landing, and Buzz Aldrin didn't even hesitate. He just punched the guy right in the face.
That's right. That's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, he's a character, man.
Yeah, he is a character.
Dude, imagine the balls. Okay, even if you believe it's faked, he had the balls to fake it.
That's true.
Well, that would be the other side of the coin, is that he's being called out on a lie, and so his
No.
immediate reaction is to be defensive.
I'd say
That's what some people say.
go watch the moon footage that we do have. I mean, we have rocks. We placed, I forget what they're called, but we measured the distance from the moon to Earth from these devices, and they're just reflectors. They reflect back this frequency of light. And we actually keep time with it sometimes. We got better clocks now, but we used to keep time from it and used it for navigation. But there's so much evidence that we definitely set foot there. I don't know how you could fake all that.
I mean, I've seen people's home observations of them looking through their own telescopes and recording it on video, where they can see the what is it, like the rover tracks in the sand or whatever on the moon.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, I mean, what would it take to convince people we did go to the moon? Sometimes you gotta ask yourself that, because they bash everything.
Right. The most likely scenario is that they made it to the moon. They did go on the moon, but that you just can't take video and pictures from the moon. There was a really good scientific YouTube video that I saw about how cameras back then didn't work in space. That there was no invention, no patents, no nothing that showed that a camera could. And so they had to fake the video footage and the camera pictures because the American people demanded that they see it, right?
Huh, I haven't heard that one yet.
Hey, Hash Brown, here in the chat forum, we got some flat earthers they think you're drunk.
I am drunk. I'm very drunk. I'm drinking 7.
He is drinking scotch, guys.
That is not a conspiracy.
That is not a conspiracy. He's drinking 47% alcohol, or 47 proof, or 47%.
47.8%.
Yes. Okay, so there's your answer, guys. That's definitive proof. But this man is drunk and is also speaking things that he believes to be true, based on his perception of reality and evidence that he has gathered.
My own experience.
Through his own experience. And we're not even paying this guy. This guy is completely legit.
I'm a friend.
He's a friend. I know him personally.
Yes.
We drink beer.
I will move
together.
Furniture,
He moves furniture, people. This guy moves furniture. He's actually one of our most regular listeners to the podcast. This is a pretty big deal having him here on the show.
Yep.
After all these episodes. This is episode, I believe, 32.
Wow.
He's a fan of us. He's a fan of us. We're fans of Hash Brown.
We are fans of Hash Brown. So if any of our listeners are really paying attention, we got episode 33 coming up. So maybe some of you guys might have a guess as to what we might cover for episode 33. We'll just leave that up to you to figure that out. Okay, what else can we discuss, guys? We've kind of gone on for a while here. It's getting time to maybe start thinking about wrapping it up.
I don't have
Sure.
anything to add.
So Hash Brown, 100% or like high 90s% of the Earth being ball shaped?
99.9%.
Not 100?
Well, I don't believe in anything 100%.
Okay, I like that.
That's what. Yeah, and you've said that a few times.
Well, sure. I mean, you don't want to ever assume 100% anything. You want to keep
No,
a
yeah.
little skepticism alive.
You can't know anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I got 0% on everything. So that's where I'm at. Unfortunately, that's the game I'm gonna play. I have no freaking idea. So we got some people, guessing what the 33 is gonna be. That's pretty good thinking there, guys.
Illuminati.
Illuminati.
Masons.
So you guys been watching any good TV shows, movies, anything cool going on in your life?
Jeez, holy cow.
Watch Whiplash. Everybody should watch that if you like drums.
Yeah, you were telling me about that. Okay.
What is that?
Whiplash?
Is that a TV show or a movie?
It's a movie.
Okay.
It's like I don't know the actors, but they're really good.
Whiplash. I'm writing it down.
Yeah, so I've been watching. The Last Man on Earth is a funny sitcom that I like to watch, and it just came back from its break. So the second half of the second season just started.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I love that show.
Yeah, just came back, and actually the new episode is hilarious because the astronaut that you've been seeing for he there's more to come with the astronaut. Let's just say that, a lot more,
Okay.
which is of course obvious because he's like a huge like celebrity, so of course he's going to be on the show.
Yeah.
Also, Better Call Saul is a spinoff of Breaking Bad, and
I've been watching that. I have been watching that.
Season 2 just started.
Oh.
Well, 4 weeks into it, so there's 4 episodes of season 2, and it seems to be pretty good.
I'm just on the last season of Breaking Bad. I just started watching the last season of that.
Are you serious? Wow.
Yeah, I just forgot to watch it. I don't know how. I went into Breaking Bad. I was like, I don't remember what happened to Saul. So I went into Breaking Bad, and it was like, on Netflix. And I realized that I hadn't seen the last season.
Well, you know what's weird about Breaking Bad is that I remember the season 5 ended with what seemed to be the end of the entire series.
Yeah, because Saul was running away, and he was taking all the money and dividing it up.
I mean, at this point, I don't even honestly remember. But I just remember at the time thinking, well, that's weird. They're supposed to have a 6th season, because that was clearly the end of the entire series right there. Like, they had an ending for everything. It all wrapped it up. And, so I could see how you might assume that was the end. But, yeah, there's an entire 6th season. And they wrapped it up pretty good of the Breaking Bad. But it is cool to see better Saul Goodman, of course, the lawyer from Breaking Bad. To see some of more of the background behind him and how he got to the point where he was, the big meth lawyer in the famous Breaking Bad series, which might be one of the best series of all time.
It was good. So in Georgia here, we have a program where you can called Georgia Pines. You can it's a library system of Georgia. You can get a book basically from any library in the state of Georgia, and they will deliver it to the closest branch near you. It might take a couple weeks, but they do that. This is the book I've been reading. It's called Beyond the Light.
Oh, wow.
It might be backwards for you guys. I'm not sure.
No, we see it.
No, it was
But
good.
it says files of near-death experiences. It's the best near-death experience book I've read so far.
Yeah.
And it's like, now I'm showing it on the screen, but I read it out loud for you. Now it's like every page has like these little explanations and pictures, and oh look at that. What's that? Solar eclipse.
Oh, man.
How's that happen?
Uh-oh.
How does that happen?
I think it's magnets.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I've read a whole bunch of near-death experience books in the last few weeks, and this book is by far the best one. So I suggest that if you live in Georgia or you have access to a library that does that. Because this is a 1997 book, but I love it. That's what I've been doing anyway, reading those books. And
Yeah,
I get new ones every other day.
the near-death experience.
There's just so many of them. And it was really popular in like the 90s and the late 80s. The near-death experience thing.
Sure.
What,
Seems
talking
it's
about them, or a lot of them happening?
Well, people were coming out with their stories because it used to be very taboo, and then like the 90s, kind of people were allowed to kind of talk about them because it wasn't most of the experience. The 85% of the experiences are not heaven. They have nothing to do with God. They don't see Jesus. They don't see any of their family.
I think a lot of those daytime talk shows probably had a lot to do with that. Your Oprah, Sally Jesse Raphael,
Yes, definitely.
Montel Williams. These very. And those stories pretty exciting, pretty
They hit home to
pretty
people, man.
pretty optimistical,
Some of them.
optomistical.
Yeah, and there's like 3% are hell experiences, where people what they perceive as hell. There's no light; it's all black. And there was one story that I've read ever, and I've read hundreds of them, where the guy saw a devil and heard people screaming and things like that. So.
Huh.
Hey, people are dropping off of our live feed now that we've stopped talking about flat Earth. So I did learn about. We have broken a few rules here because as I've studied flat Earth, I've found that the first rule of flat Earth is to not talk about flat Earth.
Oh,
So of course I've broken that code, but I'm not an official flat earther. I'm not official anything, so I could probably get away with it.
Yeah, I don't know why people would choose to believe the Earth is flat. I can't imagine it.
Oh, I mean,
That
it's
was
the same
really
reason
weird.
anybody choose to remember anything or to believe anything. I mean,
Well, I mean, I disagree with that. The only reason I believe the Earth is round is because of my experiences I've actually tested.
yeah. Well, obviously you got people of all belief systems that claim to have tested their own belief system as well. So that's the weird facet of things.
Now, a lot of people just close their eyes and pray about it and believe what they want to believe.
That's true too. But it is interesting how people will say, well, no, I know it sounds crazy, but I've tested it and it's true. And then it's easy to say, no, you haven't. But have you? But I mean, who's to say? I mean, it's hard to say. You can't ever disprove somebody else's personal claim because that's all it is, and that's all it ever can be.
You can just call them liars.
You can call it liar, crazy, creative, mystical.
How did you get your control group?
Yeah, control. You gotta have the control group,
Where
right?
where was your placebo group?
Yeah, what's your placebo? All right, so I guess that's about it, guys. I think we probably went about 30 minutes over here.
Yeah, man.
It's pretty exciting. I guess we'll mix this one in with our other interview and see what happens.
This will be the only episode I don't listen to.
You're not gonna listen? Oh, you're gonna have to listen.
Yeah, because you're gonna debate later.
Hell no.
You got the big debate coming up there, Hash Brown.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh yeah, and our podcast just this week, guys. Actually, just today, March the 8th, 2016. We just hit 5,000 all-time downloads of all the episodes. Oh, that's off off the audio podcast feed.
And, our YouTube hit 2,500 today.
Hey, I want to redo Bigfoot.
Okay, well, we're due for a follow-up on Bigfoot. Absolutely.
Because I believe I have been mistaken as Bigfoot.
I could see that.
No, you're pretty in focus because all the Bigfoot sightings are blurry.
That's true. You're not blurry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been shot at.
Oh, I have been shot at in the woods before. It's true.
Yeah. Everybody should take the hunter safeties course before they go hunting.
Yeah.
It's true. Or just don't go hunting.
Yeah, that's a good way to go.
I was out in a field in South Georgia once, and I started hearing like what sounded like rain hitting the ground. It was like, and then all of a sudden I heard the gunshot. week. And I was like, oh shit, somebody just shot buckshot at me.
That is scary as shit, man.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
and I was heading to a hunting stand.
Oh,
That
you
was
were
back.
hunting?
That
What were
was
you
back.
doing hunting?
That was back before I was vegan.
Ah,
Oh yeah, he has many post-vegan day or pre-vegan days.
That's
man, that takes a lot of commitment. I've tried to give up meat, and I always come crawling back starving.
No, vegetarian is pretty. I mean, there's a lot of different levels. Once you pass not eating meat,
Yeah.
it becomes very easy to do all the other stuff. But yeah, there's vegan is pretty much impossible, to be honest with you, because you have to. What you're trying to do is get rid of all animal products in your life, not just what you eat.
Oh
So
yeah,
like,
so you can't have a leather belt.
you can't have leather belts, shoes. You can't drive a car with leather seats.
Mm-hmm.
Your hair products that you wash with in the morning,
They
soaps.
put animal fat in them. What the
They
hell
do.
is that?
Well, no,
It's
also
like
animal,
emu
also
oil.
nothing with that involves animal testing, which is a lot of stuff.
Oh, there goes your diabetic.
There goes a lot of stuff. I mean, yeah, a lot of medicine, obviously.
Yeah,
I don't know. I guess you got to kind of make some compromises if you're like.
yeah. The less.
But I guess a lot of vegan
bit-
people are kind of a lot of vegan people are probably into the more holistic approaches to things.
I
There's
believe
some.
we should stop eating animals like we do right now, anyways.
Sure, yeah. I mean, but yeah, once you start down the hole, you realize that 90% of all the products have some sort of animal product in them. And then there's like 55 different names for dairy products, and then there's 100 different names for eggs that are disguised in food, protein type things.
Yeah, but I'll probably just keep eating eggs. You
Dude,
know.
I'm a mindless eater.
Yeah, it's
That's
terrible.
bad.
And then you can't eat GMOs because you're a health conscious person. So it gets pretty hard. But
I like GMOs though.
are you a GMO fan?
I think it's the way of the future, Duke.
The
I don't
food
like
GMO or just like
Um,
because there's GMO testing in labs, right? That doesn't ever see human.
yeah, that's for another episode.
Sure.
Yeah, you got to free. Well, the problem is you got to free the GMO technology away from these evil corporations.
That's the problem. If it's made for profit, of course it's going to be evil.
Yeah, but how do you take it away from profit? That's what motivates everything.
If we really do want to live on Mars, we got to make some food that can grow on Mars. How the hell are we going to do that without genetically modifying some food?
Sure.
And, you know, there's a lot of starving people out there because food goes bad and isn't very healthy. So you would think that we would be trying to do some kind of, you know, genetically modifying some kind of, you know, eggplant to be super nutritious that grows in the middle of nothing, you know.
I say keep your hands off my damn food.
Well,
They want to
we've been
genetically modify something.
domesticating, you know, we domesticate all our fruits. There's like there's a
That's
couple
different than genetically modifying, though.
well, you're selecting a crop. You're saying, not you, species.
Mm-hmm.
I want this to be.
Yeah, but that's natural. We're talking about like.
No, that's artificial. That's artificial.
I'm not shooting a fish gene into an apple core.
Yeah, that's just speeding up a natural.
That's the difference.
Yeah, selective is just speeding up a natural process. Yeah, like artificially injecting genes into stuff is getting kind of weird.
What it is the next step before we destroy ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're doomed.
Oh,
But the planet really needs some kind of mass famine or genocide of some sort to kind of balance things out, because us humans are getting a little out of control. I mean, with our replication we're doing. So at there's a tipping point where they're not gonna work out, and there's gonna be some massive, death, which is inevitable. So
that's the hard
that's
part.
a good way to end the episode, probably.
Yeah.
We should have a good GMO debate because I'm very anti-GMO in the food supply anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of flat earthers probably hate the the Debbie Downer attitude coming from all scientists right now. And
Wah,
it's
wah,
true.
wah.
Yeah, it's hard to be positive when you start looking at the world we live in and how people act.
But Hash Brown, Donald Trump is going to fix everything.
And there you go. Let's just go ahead and kill ourselves.
He's gonna build that wall, man.
That this real estate tycoon is going to fix all of the world's problems. We just got to trust him.
No plans, no ideas. Just trust me.
Just trust me. I'm going to put the best people on it.
It's fascinating. I can't
Be a
believe
huge success.
what a phenomenon he is. It's ridiculous.
He's phenomenal. He's phenomenal.
Feel the burn.
Feel the burn. It's going to be huge. It should be Trump, Sanders, 2016. There you go. Perfect balance.
Oh gosh.
Trump, Sanders, 2016.
We'll see how that works out.
I'm going to put that on Facebook right now. All right, guys. I gotta bail out. It's been a great discussion about why or why not the flat Earth theory may or may not be total bull crap, or maybe totally truth that's being kept from our brains.
Yeah,
Continue listening for our interview with John Davis, Flat Earth Society member.
Yes, that's right. All right, guys. Thank you, Hash Brown, for your time.
Thank you, man.
All right, buddy. Have a good night. We'll see you later.
Goodbye.
All right, guys.